Well, I don't know what your table conversation was, but my people were talking about the 20th anniversary of Pathfinder's landing and the amount of time it takes at the speed of light to get a signal to Mars and back, and, normal dinner conversation. It's an extraordinary panel, but I want to do a little history first. Victor and I met in, I think it was 1985, in the second year that Victor did a trade show conference on space industrialization. Let's talk about Back to the Future. And I have with me tonight my 40-year-old script that I began in 1977. That's a space opera. Hey, it's Hollywood, right? Everybody's got a script. So for both of us, this is a return to form. I won't talk about politics tonight because there ain't no need, but I've been looking at a lot of old journals. And something that struck me, a couple of years ago, Tom Friedman gathered a bunch of smarty pantses and they talked about the state of things in a brighter time. And somebody said, and I thought this was really brilliant, that the operating system, if you will, of our society, our American society, was crystallized in the 1940s and 50s. The so-called administrative state, the state with bureaucracies, which grew up in the Depression and then really got big in World War II, took shape in a form that advantaged all of us in the 1950s. And it peaked in its yield to common folk and in its capacity for productivity in the 1960s. And that took the form of the space program. The space program came at a time of apparent post-scarcity, and we blasted off for the moon. And we thought everything was possible. And we got what some of us still think is the best space movie in 1968, the one that first respected the silence of space and that really went to lengths to try to simulate the effects of minimalized gravity in a space habitation, and that was 2001. And then in the 70s, as scarcity returned and we had a couple of oil shocks and a lot of bad things began to happen, space investment shrank. And by the late 70s, we had the space shuttle, which was supposed to be an inexpensive transportation system to orbit, but proved to be much more expensive and difficult. And space budgets continued to shrink in the 80s, although we did some extraordinary planetary investigation. In the 90s, we had a period of, I told you it wasn't going to be political, but it's true, of sort of pointless prosperity. Everything was safe, everything was good, but what happened to NASA? And the 2000s, we've had nothing but shock. So, tonight we're going to be gathered with some folks. One of them wrote Apollo 13 and recently released Apollo 8. Everybody remembers what Apollo 8 was? It was a sacred thing, right? Al Gore, when he talks about the origins of his understanding of planetary importance, he points to a picture that was taken that Christmas Eve in 1968, looking back at the Earth. The first time we could see the whole planet. We're going to be with a woman who was sleepless once and then began to talk to extraterrestrials. But she talked to terrestrials as well, and she became a friend of and a popularizer of Carl Sagan. We'll be graced with the president of DreamWorks Film Operation, a guy who was an executive producer on Gravity. And we will hear from a man who does Academy Award-winning special effects. I think I've covered all of us. And we are going to be led by Steven Sklar, whose reality, Steven is a notable cinematographer. He's known throughout Hollywood. But his real contribution to the technology is he's one of the people who knows the most about stereoscopy, about 3D. And in VR, we sometimes make the mistake of thinking that the simple fact of having two viewing ports will give you 3D automatically. As Steven may tell us tonight, there's a lot more to it. So Steven is our moderator, and I think it's time to empanel the panel.
I'll get that one. I got that one. Oh, water too good.